Remote learning has been a challenge for many. Welcome to another Techstination interview. I'm Fred Fishkin. Joining us is Jennifer Lee, Vice President of Strategy at a company called PhotoMath. They're focused on helping students. Thanks for joining us, Jennifer.
Hi, Fred. Thanks for having me. Glad to be here.
Give us some background and an overview of what PhotoMath is all about, what you do.
Yeah, so PhotoMath is the #1 mobile math learning app. And what we do is we help students and parents often get unstuck and alleviate doubt when they come across problems that they don't understand. So it's a mobile app that you can use. You can open it up on your phone or install it and then open it up, and you can take a picture of pretty much any math equation from basic arithmetic all the way up to calculus. And what it does is we use computer vision and machine learning to understand what it is that problem is and what you're trying to learn, and then provide really rigorous step-by-step explanations to help the student or parent get unstuck and eventually understand and learn how to approach these types of problems.
That sounds really wild. I wish you were there when I was in school. Tell me,
We hear
I'm
that
a journalist for a reason. So
yeah.
tell me how this works, that you're able to do this and do it quickly. There's not a human, as you said, on the other side. That would be kind of impossible.
Yeah. So and we help students with about, I think actually over 2 billion problems a month. So yes, there is not often a human on the other side, because that would not be possible at that type of scale. What we do not to get too technical about it, but we have an entire machine learning and AI team who really works on what we call optical character recognition, or OCR. It's a form of computer vision. And what they do is when you take a picture when you take a picture of the problem, they have created basically a machine learning model that tries to interpret and understand those problems. And we train it on a huge data set to kind of be able to really understand, regardless if it's a picture of a handwritten problem or a picture of a printed problem. And then on the other side, it's once we understand what that problem is and what you're trying to learn, we have a team of software engineers as well as math teachers that try to say, hey, what's the best way to approach and explain this? And how do we codify it into an expert solver system? So once we understand it, we then say, hey, what's the most relevant piece of information for you as a user to get you to learning, and then try to service that up.
Well, that's what I was going to ask, what your role is in the learning process. I mean, a lot of kids would love it. Hey, I got the answer. I can zip through my homework, and they're really not learning much. So tell me how you strike the balance here, that you're helping with the learning process.
Yeah, and I think the key here is really to understand it's those step-by-step explanations, right? How do we approach the problem? And why are we doing this step? What's important about this step? What's crucial information around these particular steps? Well, what we actually find is that over pretty much close to 90% of our users actually look at the steps, right? So it's not about just getting the answer for them. It's really about trying to understand, well, how do I get to that answer? And from that perspective, what we try to do is really ensure that it's intuitive and easy to get at. And for many students, they need to see that not just one time, but maybe 5 times, maybe 10 times, maybe even 50 times, right? And unfortunately, in the schooling system, or if you're lucky enough to get a tutor, it might not be possible for a human individual to go through example problems with you that many times. However many times you need to do it as a student to get comfortable, to feel like you understand the process and procedure, that's how we come in and we try to really help the students when it comes to learning. We find that the students who are looking, just for a quick answer actually churn off of our app pretty quickly, because it doesn't get them to the point of learning. And when the test comes around, they feel that and they recognize that. We try also not to be super, we want to take this from the perspective of the user, meaning we want to ensure that we help students learn in the best way that works for them, in language that works for them, in a time and place that works for them. What we find is some students come in and they are checking their homework. They scan, right. Oh, I got this wrong. Why did I get this one wrong? Now let me dig into the steps and really understand what's going on. And that's a very typical common user case and behavior that we see in the app.
You have different versions. You've got a free version, and then there is a paid version. So tell us what it costs and what the differences are.
Yeah. So for us, it's really important that we try to provide as much support as possible. And so, at, and what we would say is like, um, you can always scan it and get a solution or answer for free, as well as some sort of steps as well. And then the part that is paid, PhotoMath Plus, it is $9.99 a month or $59.99 a year. It really incorporates three main aspects. One area is textbook solutions. So more really visually robust and heavy kind of textual explanation as to how to approach a lot of tricky word problems that you come across is paywalled. And that's also because that is not fully done by the computer. We also have a huge network of math experts who help us create those problems as well. Second is something that we call kind of hints, how, and why. So when you're going through the steps, why am I doing this step? How do I do this step in extra detail? You know, if it's a calculus problem and it says what's, you know, find the left rhyme in sum, and you're like, what's the left rhyme in sum? Like really robust hints and glossary definitions around that. So contextually relevant additional information. And then the third thing was what we're actually really excited about are these things called animated tutorials. And these are visual explanations, almost very video-like, to explain a problem. So how a teacher or tutor would want it to go onto the whiteboard and write things out. Like if you could imagine a long multiplication problem, right? If you, a step-by-step would just say 356 times 24 is, well, unfortunately, I don't know that off the top of my head, but it would just give you the answer. What we want to be able to do is to show, actually, you know, first you need to multiply in the ones place, then you get a tens, you need to show how to carry it. So it's a really kind of visual explanation on how to do it. And it's all, those are all automatically generated. The animated tutorials, which are very cool and we're really excited about, are also paywalled right now.
Did you have to overcome resistance in the educational community or parental community? I would imagine a lot of parents really see this as a blessing because they're stumped by the homework too.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, your statement is one that we hear from anybody with like anybody, you know, a parent or over the age of 25 is like, oh, I wish I had this when I was a student. And for many, you know, particularly in this global pandemic, it's been really challenging for parents, right? We find, we did a recent poll and survey of parents and kind of how it has gone for them over this past year. And what we found is that 75% of them have had to increase like support to their students in this environment when they're in remote learning. And for many, you know, they learned math a decade ago, maybe even 2 decades ago. It's taught differently. They're just, who remembers how to take a limit function sometimes if you're not doing limit functions on a regular basis. And so many of them have felt unprepared or lack the confidence to be able to provide the support that they really want to for their children. So we've actually seen a lot of parental interest in this. I think number of parent downloads has increased over 3x since the global pandemic has started. And it's because they, you know, when you hear the words like new math and Common Core, you just want a quick resource to help you to also be able to be the support and the potential tutor that your student wants. So on the parental side, we actually see a big embracer of the product and actually, you know, that statement, oh, I wish I had this and I'm glad I have it now so I can help, you know, my teenager with algebra, with his or her algebra homework. On the teacher side, I would say it's actually quite favorable as well. You know, I think what we recognize is what PhotoMath does is provide a lot of support when it comes to trying to teach the procedural knowledge behind math, right? But math learning is not just about procedural knowledge, it's procedural knowledge and conceptual knowledge and application of it. And so when we talk with teachers, and we talk a lot with teachers because we want to be able to support the entire learning experience, right? What we find is that teachers like to use us to help supplement on the procedural. How do we ensure that the students get that strong foundation and understanding on how to do those step-by-steps? And then it lets the teacher really focus on the conceptual aspects of it, the application in new situations, and kind of lets them amplify and focus on the areas in a high touch way, rather than just focusing on, just the procedural portion of math learning. So, it I think the teachers have also found a lot of struggle on how to continue to support their students in this environment, particularly when they're remote, when they might not have class as regularly on a Zoom call as they would in a normal school year. That there's also tools out there that can help support and supplement that additional time.
Are there specific grade levels that you're aimed at, and things that you can do and can't do?
Yeah. So we find that we start coming in right around sixth grade, and that's for a couple of reasons. One, um, our main method is through the mobile phone, and sixth grade is actually now when students are getting their home mobile phone. We don't necessarily know that a mobile phone is like the best way to teach a 5-year-old. I would not necessarily, as a 5-year-old myself, I would not advocate that, that his main means of learning math is through a mobile phone at this point in time. So there's an age appropriate level. And we find that not only is this when students are getting their own mobile phones, but this is also when the math starts getting challenging, right? This is pre-algebra. This is when parents start feeling a little less comfortable about their ability to help support their student directly. And then we go all the way up into calculus, I believe currently single variable calculus. And so we, have a lot of students also in college that find either need a refresher in math or need to get back up to, retake algebra so that because it's part of whatever, course of study it is that they want, or are studying things like statistics and calculus at the college level.
You may have covered this already, but are word problems difficult for you to deal with, or do you do those at all?
Yeah, so word problems are a really interesting area, and we want to be able to support students regardless of the type of problem that they have. And from an OCR machine learning perspective, word problems present their own challenge, right? In many cases, we cannot, through machine learning alone today, be able to solve word problems. And this is where we have an entire network of several thousand math experts globally who help us when those cases arise. So for word problems, we're trying to tackle them more and more. Currently, we are doing that through covering word problems in the most popular textbooks. And we, I think to date now, have covered over 290 of the most popular titles within the US math textbook space. And we can tend to recognize those problems, but we then also have these experts come in and help provide framing how to set up the problem. And often many of those cases, let's take a classic example of the word problem we all think of, right? Fred is riding his bike from San Francisco, California to San Jose, right? And it's however many miles. He goes one speed for the first half, second speed for the second half. What's the total length of Fred's trip? Ultimately, that problem boils down into an equation. And so what we try to do is we try to help have our math experts come in and help frame and set up, explain to the student how to set up that problem. And then our expert algorithmic solution comes in and says, now that you have this formula, here's the steps on how to, you can also then look at the steps on how to do it. So we tend to take even still always try to take a hybrid approach so that students get the same quality consistency across, regardless of how we end up helping provide those explanations.
Sounds terrific. So what's next for the company? What's on the horizon?
So I mentioned this, we really want to double down and continue really focusing on how can we help students better understand and then work their way towards not just comprehension, but mastery of subject, right? And really using the data that we have, which I said we're something like 2 billion plus problems a month being solved through the app. So all sorts of information about what students are studying, how they're studying, when they're studying, what subject, to really understand what's the best way for them to get towards learning. So many times, even if you scan a problem, we have multiple solutions and multiple ways that you can approach that problem. We'd love to kind of continue working to better understand what's most effective for students. does this student particularly learn better through this explanation for that explanation? Maybe it's individual based, maybe it's somewhat geographically based because you have different standards and curricula approaches in different locations around the world. So that's part of it. It's also, are these visual explanations like animated tutorials really helpful in some cases, but the step-by-steps and other graphical explanations are more helpful in other cases. So really kind of better understanding how we can get the student towards that learning point and using that data to do so. And then finally, I would say that we're also really excited about, when it comes to eventually thinking about what would a full kind of tutoring experience look like and how much of this can be done through scalably through software and machine learning and AI, and how much of it also we just ultimately want to have from a human contact standpoint that's helpful for the student. So, I think we're really excited to continue pushing on helping students learn and providing that supplemental support outside the classroom.
For more info, where should people go?
Well, I would first encourage everyone to go to their respective app store. So either, your Apple App Store or Google Play Store, and you can just search for PhotoMath and download it there. Otherwise, you can also go to photomath.com, and we have a whole bunch of information specifically for students, parents, and teachers on the app as well.
Terrific. You're not going to get into any other subjects, I assume, with a name like PhotoMath, are you?
Well, I mean, for us, it is, we really want to help. There are 1 billion students currently globally enrolled in schools between 6th grade through college who are pretty much mandated by the government to learn math every single year. So we want to make sure we fully support those billion students, plus all, the parents and teachers around them first and foremost. But our technology actually is being structured and set up in a way such that we can eventually expand to other subject areas, other STEM fields, physics, chemistry, or natural extensions. But at the end of the day, I think once we feel we really supported students well in this critical foundational subject of math, because it's really the basis for a lot of branching off into these other subjects and helping students feel confident about it, there's no reason why we shouldn't be able to continue to support them on their learning journey overall.
Sounds exciting. Once again, it's photomath.com for more. Jennifer Lee, thank you so much for taking the time with us.
My pleasure, Fred.
Now this. It takes a lot of listening to build a better radio, and that's just what the folks at C. Crane have done. Bob Crane and his crew, nestled among the rivers and tallest trees in the world in Fortuna, California, have made a habit of listening to their customers. And that's just what they've done in building the CC Skywave SSB, the Swiss Army knife of portable radios. For everyday listening to AM or FM in the yard or patio or on the nightstand without having to drain a mobile phone battery, it's a great companion. But it is also a companion equipped for NOAA weather information and alerts that can be life-saving. You can listen to FEMA and Coast Guard transmissions too. Beyond all of that, you can tune into shortwave signals from around the world. It's compact, easy to take with you, and built to last. The CC Skywave SSB. Click on the link at Techstination.com.